Hey everybody, I just wanted to share something with you real quick. So, something I've been noticing a lot lately, especially with all this immigration stuff, is that a lot of people don't seem to know the laws, and a lot of those people um, come from the African race. I'm seeing it a lot where it's just a complete inability to comprehend laws or form of government or anything. I mean, these people have been here for over 400 years and they still don't understand how our country works, how our government works, how laws work, or any of that. I'm going to show you a video here. This African woman who is telling ICE agents that they're going to be arrested and sentenced to prison for enforcing the laws of our nation, immigration laws, because she's saying that illegal immigrants have rights. They're protected by the Bill of Rights. They're protected by the Constitution. So by this African woman's understanding that it doesn't matter how you come into this country, even if you break the law to come into this country, you have rights and constitutional rights to be allowed to stay here, and you're immune from unwarranted searches and seizures, and you can't be arrested just because you're here illegally and deported back to your country. So let's listen a bit, and we'll see what she says, and then I'll explain to you how ridiculous this mindset
Illegal.
is.
When the other side of this, when we find out who you are, you're losing everything. That $1,000, enjoy it now because it's coming to an end. This video is for ICE agents or bounty hunters who have been deputized by Department of Homeland Security or the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and they've been told by their supervisor or Tom Holman or Kristi Noem or Donald Trump or Pam Bondi that you're good, that you can violate the law because you know the stuff that you're doing is against the law. How do I know you know this? Because
All right, let's skip ahead here, and I'll show you the laws that she's talking about. She's talking about U.S. codes for protecting the rights of citizens. Let's see, we'll go. And apparently she thinks that she's a lawyer.
you're going to be on the hook for the following federal laws, can't be, and state laws. So let's say you get caught, we figure out who you are, states start prosecuting. Donald Trump can't save you from state laws. He can't pardon himself. He can't pardon himself. And he definitely can't pardon himself with state laws because right now he's a 34-time convict in the state of New York. Unpardonable straight finishes. So first, let's go through the federal stuff that you're on the hook.
Yeah, so here she's talking about USC 242. Deprivation of rights under color of law, exceeding authorized use of force. That's the one that she's talking about. Assault by federal agents in certain jurisdictions, U.S. territories, or on federal land can trigger automatic liability. I mean, that's not, it's excessive force. When you're arresting someone, you're putting handcuffs on them. And these illegal migrants have broken the law to come here in the first place. That's what an illegal immigrant is. It's someone who came over our border in a place that is not an authorized point of entry, so they could get around, being searched or having their background checked or being vetted or anything. Which obviously there's plenty of ports of entry into this country from the southern border, and if they weren't criminals and they had nothing to hide, they would just go through a point of entry. Then they would be fine. They wouldn't be getting hunted down right now by federal agents who are enforcing immigration law. What this African woman doesn't understand, and what unfortunately a lot of blacks in this country don't understand, is how the law works. She's trying to say that these laws, the constitutional laws, Bill of Rights, all pertains to anybody who comes to this country, no matter how they come here. Now, I will say that the Bill of Rights does pertain to, all people in this country, but you cannot have committed a crime to come to this country and then expect to, be immune from unwarranted searches and seizures, or, be immune from being arrested like this, and it's not exceeding authorized use of force. Putting handcuffs on an illegal immigrant, chasing them down, tackling them if they're running and resisting arrest. So this is the problem we have, folks. And this African lady here is not the only one. I'm seeing this a lot on YouTube, where it's just black people just don't understand laws. It's that simple. They just don't understand laws. They don't understand our government. They've been here for well over 400 years, And this is what the South was talking about back then. These people are not ready to have equal rights and exercise equal rights like voting, etc., because they still don't understand how our country works. They don't understand how laws work, period. They have no comprehension of it. As you can see here, this is a plain and simple evidence of that. And you can scour YouTube and X and TikTok, and you'll find it all over the place where they just don't understand how laws work. She thinks that these U.S. codes will apply to ICE agents and deputies and bounty hunters who are enforcing the laws of our country. And then there's the fact that the Constitution does not say that rights and privileges, etc., just apply to anyone who comes here by any means, especially people who break the law to come here. In the preamble of the Constitution, it says very specifically to the people of the United States. I'm going to read it to you real quick. So the preamble, literally the first words of the U.S. Constitution say, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." To ourselves and our posterity. They were not talking about third world immigrants. They were not talking about people from all over the world. They were talking about themselves and their posterity. Their posterity being their future generations. So obviously the Constitution was not created for everybody. It was not created for every foreigner who jumps across our border, swims across a river, and enters our country illegally. You're committing a criminal act by doing that. So she's wrong. These rights do not apply to people who enter our country illegally. They apply to people who, certain rights, obviously not the right to vote, but certain rights do apply to people who enter our country legally through a port of entry, but not those who enter our country illegally, not through a point of entry, who don't get vetted, who don't get searched, who nobody knows is here, and those are the people that ICE is arresting. Plus, even some of the violent criminals that had come here legally and have just committed heinous crimes inside the United States. They should also be deported. That's the other thing that she doesn't understand, is that Congress, per the Constitution, Congress has the ability to, the power to legislate for naturalization as well as immigration. It's on them. So Congress passed immigration laws that say you have to enter this country through a designated port of entry. If you don't, and you enter this country somewhere else, you've committed a crime. So you don't have these rights. It's not an unwarranted search or seizure when, federal law enforcement knows for a fact that you have committed a crime because you're here illegally. There's no documentation that you came through a designated port of entry. You are here illegally. So we'll listen to a little bit more, and we'll put some more.
Okay. So there's this law right here: deprivation of rights under color of law. That means when you use force without due process, criminal liability is what you're looking at. All right, that's 18 USC 242. Now let's look at exceeded.
All right, so now this woman also calls herself a lawyer, which is hilarious. I guess she's a lawyer from Zimbabwe or something. I don't know, but the deprivation of rights under color of law does not have anything to do with excessive force. Deprivation of rights under color of law means that someone, usually in the government, has deprivated your protected rights by using some law that's on the books as a reason to do so, even though the law does not specifically state that you have committed a crime, like, what you're doing. So it's under the color of law. They're using the guise of some law, or, it could be a real law, or it could be their interpretation of a law, which is usually what it is. They interpret a law to mean something, and then they violate your protected constitutional rights. So this woman has no idea what she's talking about. She doesn't even understand what these laws mean. So, from that, we can see that these people really just don't understand laws. And that's the problem. That's the reason why our country is the way it is. These people never got a chance to be taught. They were just freed. They were given free citizenship, and they were given equal rights, and they were allowed to vote, and they were allowed to just mix in everywhere and take over everything. They were never taught anything. Slavery ended 160 years ago. They got free citizenship. they got equal rights, and they didn't understand any of it. They did not understand what any of it meant. They didn't understand what the laws meant. They didn't understand laws, period. And now here we are 160 years later. They still don't understand. They still don't understand how our government works. Clearly, as you can see, they still don't understand laws. You know, I hope this woman really isn't a lawyer, because if she is the worst lawyer on planet Earth. So we really need to understand this, especially the white people in this country who created this country. This is our country. It says so in the preamble, for ourselves and our posterity. We need to start taking accountability and responsibility and understanding that there are groups of people, classes of people in this country who have been given a free ride on everything and have not learned anything at all, but they can vote and they have a voice in state legislatures and the federal legislature. And we need to understand how dangerous that is, because that's where we got to this unmitigated flood of third world immigrants into our country that are changing our demographic, changing how certain areas and states in the country vote, and how we get, people like this new guy in New York. He's a socialist, he's an anarcho-socialist, and the guy, there's no way that like actual New Yorkers would have ever voted for this guy. New York, that the place that used to be like that city itself, the beating heartbeat of this country, is now just delved into a third world, shithole is what it is. It is a cesspool, crime-ridden, destroyed, dirty, filthy. It's just a nasty place. People don't even want to visit there. People who live there want to get out, and that's why. Because of people like this that we gave free citizenship to and equal rights 160 years ago, and they were never taught what it means to be a citizen in this country. They were never taught what this country stands for, how the government works, how the laws work. They were never taught anything. And now they've just come up with their own interpretation of stuff to make things better for themselves. It doesn't profit Americans, the things that they do. It profits them only. So that's it for today. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure I'll probably get some hate comments, and I don't care, because, I can easily prove everything that I've said. So, this is Central Florida Cracker out.